Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Mind and Body Podcast. I'm actually reshooting this introduction because when I was interviewing Kirk Kirkland, I didn't have the microphone in front of me for the first couple of minutes. Rookie mistake, I know. But this also gives me an opportunity to kind of share some of my thoughts about the interview. And I just got to say, I really enjoyed talking to Kirk. Very authentic, very real, very down to earth. And one thing that I love about what he's doing, for those that don't know him, he's had quite a journey when it comes to weight loss for his whole adult life, and I think even into his childhood as well. He's really struggled with his weight, and there came a point in time, a watershed moment, where he decided, you know what, enough's enough. I want to pursue health. I want to have longevity. And if you know Kirk, you know also he's a pastor, so there's some connection between the goal of losing weight and his own faith journey. And it just was really neat to hear him flesh it out in a very honest way. One thing that I love about what Kirk is doing is that he's putting his journey online. Now, I don't think everyone should do that, but I do think for him, he knew that if I don't put this out there and kind of, put the cost up, like if I fail, I'm going to fail publicly, and that's going to be shameful for me. And it was helpful for him to create an environment, a context that really would help him to stay in this for the long haul. And he's lost, I think, 75 plus pounds at this point. So he's getting close to entering into the 100-pound club of losing that much weight. He's doing fantastic, and he has a goal that he's still pressing towards. But it was so neat to kind of catch him in the spot that he is right now and hear how he's thinking, the struggles, the psychological battle, as well as some of the physiological battles that he was facing. I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. If you're a person who has struggled with, I think Kirk put it this way, losing kind of the same 10 to 20 pounds over and over again and really struggling, and you're looking for maybe some encouragement, some advice to have a breakthrough, I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. Now, because of my microphone issues at the beginning, I'm going to drop you in right when Kirk begins to pick up. So I already introduced him. I tell him I welcome him to the channel. But all of that was just kind of muffly. So what I'm going to do is just drop you right into when he begins to talk about his story. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
John, it is so much of an honor for you to reach out and to ask me and to invite me. I secretly call you John the Beast Beasley. Uh, so you also are inspiration, and just to see you and follow you. So to be invited, I'm not saying I've arrived, but I am saying I feel really good about being here today. So thank you for that invitation, and
Yeah.
yeah, happy to talk about my journey. So I was one. If you want to go like real deep, real fast, I was always a bigger kid, and I can remember vividly shopping with my mom, and there was a section of the store called the Husky section, and I don't think they name it that anymore for kids. But but I remember being in the Husky section, so it's kind of been like a weight thing for me. It's probably in my psyche. It's probably in the back of my head that I'm a bigger person. But got into sports in junior high, high school. Grew, kind of, grew into my body correctly, where I didn't. Wasn't so self conscious.
Mhm.
And then probably 2008 was the last time I probably felt healthy. I had a gym partner. I was doing a little running and just kind of paying attention to fitness. And then after that, just a lot of life. Got married in 2010. My wife remembers I weighed about 275 pounds when we got married. Again, bigger guy, about 6 feet tall, bigger guy, kind of carry my weight well, athletic kind of guy. So that really didn't stop me from living my life. There was one time I was embarrassed that there was a ride at an amusement park that I couldn't buckle the seatbelt, and that kind of motivated me to, maybe lose some pounds here and there. But other than that, it didn't stop me. But then just, you start having children and you get in the middle of your profession and your calling. For me, a ministry, lots of stress. And every year, the pounds add up and the waist gets bigger and the clothes get bigger. And so in the past couple of years, 2024, 2025, it's one thing when you bump up to a new level. So you go from 2X to 3X, that was a huge kind of mental burden. And
Mm.
then as you get towards, the end of 2025, when 3X starts fitting snugly, and there's something that is not right. This is not good for me. Couple of times I went to the doctor, and they did blood work, and they would say, hey, these things are way too high, this is dangerous. If you stay on this road, you're heading in a bad direction. And then knowing that in my family, diabetes runs in my family. So knowing that kind of is always in the back of your head of like, that could be me if I continue this way. And probably like one of the last things where I just really felt and I'm going to use this word, the shame of being overweight was getting life insurance and just not having, paying more money because of my size. And so that's kind of been the slow pressure cooker of getting up to 323 pounds. Um,
Mm.
December the 17th is the day that my wife came to me and said, let's make some changes. So uh, that's kind of my journey in a nutshell.
So, okay, that actually brings me to that next question. I was thinking like, okay, what was it that slow buildup of a number of things accumulating to kind of like, okay, enough's enough. I gotta make some changes. Was there that moment for you where it's like a watershed? Maybe it was the wife kind of coming to you and saying, all right, we're making some changes, which is awesome to have a supportive wife to help move in a certain direction. As a coach, when I have helped couples or couples decide to do something together, it is so powerful, man. Just because if one's doing it and the other's not, it could just be kind of difficult. You know how when you make changes, it can affect your social life, you know.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if your spouse is kind of like, oh hey, I thought we would have this together or have share this bowl of ice cream, or not that it's necessarily wrong to have those type of things, but
Correct.
it could be a difficult thing. So that's cool. What was that watershed moment? Was there a moment like that for you?
Yeah, and I give credit to my wife completely. December the 17th, and she would have to tell you her journey, what got her to this point. But she said, I want to be healthy. And she meant that from a what we consume standpoint. She was convinced the things that we put in our body matter, and a
Mm,
lot of the health crisis, let me just use that phrase, very large health crisis of how the average American lives and the health
yeah.
conditions and unhealthiness and disease and so forth and so on. She was convinced that is primarily related to what we put in our body. And she said, I want to be healthy. And
Mm,
I'm just going to be brutally honest. I said, yes, ma'am. Like, hey, I'm if mama's not happy, nobody's happy. Happy wife, happy life.
yeah.
And if you're going to be committed to meal prep and cooking, I will eat what you prep, and I'll try to help you along the way. But by being brutally honest, it was more her thing, and I was like, yeah, I'll go along with this thing, because I want you to be happy, and yeah, in the back of my head is like, sure, I need to be healthy, but I wouldn't say that was my personal watershed moment that where I received it, believed it. It was the change that she wanted to make that I said I'll buy in on that.
Mm, mm. So December 17th. So that's like in the middle of like holidays. Did you guys
Like the
start?
the worst time, right? Like
Did
the
you
worst
start
time.
December 17th?
Yes, December 17th is mark it down. We're
Dude,
going to
I love
be
that
healthy. Yes.
because it's so easy. understandably so, but it's so easy for people to say, let's start after the holidays. But then
Hmm.
there's always something, man. There's
Always.
always something. It's like, all right, but then we got New Year's. We got to celebrate that after New Year's, and we'll get started. And then somebody's like, oh, but there's a birthday coming up, and Easter, we have to celebrate that whatever it is. It's just like it, every couple of weeks there's something else. And normally people don't, when they celebrate a holiday, it's not just the holiday. And for those who are my regular audience, they know that I am for flexibility, like enjoying life, but actually having enough of good, healthy eating to when you do these things, it doesn't become the staple; it becomes the exception,
One,
type of thing.
100.
But you're still able, like, to enjoy these things. I have some clients who just like, nope, I'm just cutting it all out because I just can't handle it, and that's understandable.
Hmm.
It's kind of like,
Understood.
hey, you do you, whatever helps you get to that goal. Some people are like, if I have to cut out everything, I don't know if I can make this sustainable. So it's better to be
Hmm.
a little bit more balanced and figure out those rhythms. But I'm super impressed by just saying it's in the middle of the Christmas season. We're starting now. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. What you said something in one of your posts. You said you talked about dismantling disbelief systems. One rep, one walk, one meal, one decision at a time. That sounds like there's some story there that you
Sure.
have. What would you say would be, where have you had to dismantle the most for yourself?
Yeah, kind of all or nothing thinking. I think
Mm,
I am an all in person, and that can be a blessing, but it also can be a curse because if you think you have to be all in, if you think I got to work out 6 times a week, I never can have a bowl of ice cream ever again in my life.
mhm.
And if that's what you think it takes to live a healthy lifestyle, to see your body change, recomposition, many people, they never start because they think, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't afford a gym membership. How can I work out? I can't meal prep. Healthy food is more expensive. Whatever the excuse or the lie or the framework of your mind of why I can't start or I can't do that, I can't sustain that, and if I can't be all in, I can't do anything at all. And I think that's just the biggest um, reframing of my mind because it wasn't all in. I just told you I wouldn't have been in to begin with if it wasn't for my wife.
Yeah.
And then even then, 2 weeks into the journey, seeing some slight changes, but nothing drastic, nothing crazy. Uh, and then it's like, well, if I'm eating right, and I have some equipment in my garage that was donated to me, why wouldn't I, have it stack a little bit of working out on top of eating right? Maybe I could
Mm,
see some actual gains from this. And so, and then not, here's an intimidating thing for a lot of people, especially when it comes to working out, not knowing how to do it, not knowing how to do workouts and not knowing what workouts to do and just feeling really just uneducated on the science and the what are you doing. And then of course we've all heard these videos or things, if you don't do it right, you're not getting the gains, you're not doing it right, your form is bad. and
yeah.
and and so you got to just you use this word, the courage, right? Like just the courage to say, I'm going to attempt something. It may not be perfect. It may not be the exact form. I may not be able to do this 6 days a week. This may not, be sustainable for the rest of my life, but that's not going to stop me from trying. And again, trying to habit stack a couple of things, couple of weeks together. Um, and then
Yeah.
from there, once you have the courage to start, if you can stay in it long enough to actually see a result, like one result, one belt loop, one you know, one little crever of a definition in your arm,
Yeah.
then your brain does the, oh, this works.
Yes.
And then once you get to that point where I feel like God wired us to say, this works. Here's the reward. Here's the result. You keep doing this and you'll see more. Well, then from there, you may actually start to feel motivated. You may actually want to be
Mm,
disciplined, but it's those critical, that starting place of,
yes.
I
Yeah.
will I will attempt this. I may fail. I may not be doing it correctly. I may not be able to keep up with it for the rest of my life, but that's not going to stop me from trying. I think that's the reframe of mindset and shift. And the powerful thing is, once you do that and you see some results, well, you may end up on somebody's podcast talking about how you lost 75 pounds.
Exactly. No, exactly right. I've seen on your social media this thread of just like, I think you might be picking this up from someone else, but you said practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes improvements. And a constant thread I see is like, just be consistent, just persist, like just show up and do the thing. Don't overthink. And I think that that is such a good note. One thing that I'm noticing in my space as a coach is that a lot of people have access to a crazy amount of information.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about coaching now is not as much like, I'm going to inform you, I'm going to tell you something that you just don't know. That
Mm-hmm.
happens, but it's more of sifting through the amount of information people already have. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
so much information coming in, so much consumption of, like, if you start to try to get in shape and your algorithm starts to populate with like, um, eat eggs are the best thing for you. Don't eat eggs. Eggs will kill you. Um, hey,
Mercy.
some of those old school guys would drink like a ton of milk. Don't drink milk. It could be anything. Like, it's one
Mm-hmm.
second it's really good for you, the next second it's going to kill you, cause cancer. And
Mm-hmm.
but I think a lot of it is just saying, okay, what does the data actually say? What does the actual research say? But I think there's something powerful to what you just said. Like, hey, I'm going to try something. I'm going to give it enough time, and I'm going to see the result. And it'll either work for you or not. And then you just kind of keep tweaking, and you're almost like your own science experiment. I
Yes.
mean, somebody could come up to you and you're like, "Hey, what you do doesn't work, man." You're like, "Dude, I've lost this much weight.
Yes.
I got definition. I'm stronger.
Yes.
Something is working." And I think when you allow yourself the space to um, just to put in the effort and be consistent, and you start to see the change, there is a confidence that comes onto you, and you're not claiming to have the answer for everyone, but you're like, hey, and
Correct.
I think I've seen this in you. You're just like, here's what I did. This might help you. Take it or leave it, but here's something that's helped me. And I think a lot of people are looking for that just straight up honesty, and they're trying to learn. And there are some aspects where I think a story like yours is infinitely more impacting than like me as a trainer. They expect me as a trainer to say something, but for you to be like, "Hey, I'm not. I'm just trying to. I'll invite you on the journey that I'm on." I think that's powerful,
Yes.
and I think
In
you've
the
leveled it.
middle, in the middle of the journey, because if I'm being honest, it was scary to invite people in on the journey in the middle of it. It's, to me, it felt safer. Let me take 6 months, have the before and after, then invite people in on the journey or tell people about the journey. Because then I can fail silently and quietly, and no one knew
Mm,
that I failed. But in the middle of the journey is, yes, I may be doing something wrong. Yes, I don't know all the things, and I'm asking, and my lack of knowledge is being pointed out. Um, I I may slip up for 2 weeks, and then people hit me up. Hey, what happened to your videos? All those things. But I think that makes it accessible to the person who thinks it's out of reach, and it's amazing. It is amazing. Of all the years of me posting on social media, I have had so much more engagement, comments, inboxes, likes, shares in the past 6 months that I compounding. It seems like my whole social media journey, and it's because it's people looking for a little bit of courage, a little bit of, if man, if this guy can do this, I can do something. And then and then watch my feed. This is so encouraging. I'm sure you've probably seen this too. You start seeing now other people running, other people doing their little workouts, other people, and I don't know if I directly had a an impact on that, but I think I did. I really do, because I don't remember seeing that beforehand, and now I see it, and I think, because I just tried and was willing to fail in front of people.
Mm,
Not only did it impact them, but it also impacted me on the other end. It gave me an added motivation and accountability to
yeah.
keep trying, to keep showing up.
Yeah. You know, for those listening in, Kirk, you might have mentioned this, but you're a pastor. And so there's this desire to obviously help people grow in their faith. You're concerned about their spiritual formation. I wonder though, like, have you seen a door open up to even engage on that level? Because I'm not talking about you just pursuing being in better shape, and pursuing stewardship in that area yourself. But I mean, like, it's almost like, hey, if I can help somebody begin to think about stewardship as it relates to their body, it actually makes way for other things.
Yes,
Have you seen there like being a growth of influence as a
yes.
pastor because of these practices?
Yeah, and I give you the result again, just pure analytics and data of engagement has gone exponential
Yeah.
since talking about stewarding your body, health, exercise, and then also that my audience. I would post something about the church, and that was primarily what I was doing. I was just posting stuff about the church, right? That was and occasionally, a family pic. That was
Yeah. Right.
the totality of my social media. And there was a certain age demographic, and I don't say this disparagingly, it was mostly women. That was the when you look at who was, and it wasn't very many. It wasn't very many. It was very small engagement, a certain age group, and mostly women. And now, uh, men are engaged heavily, and the way that the age range has opened up, and then non-followers has increased exponentially. I
Yeah.
still talk about my faith. I still talk about my church. I still post my occasional family picture, but I am engaging people on a whole new level,
Mm,
because of
mm.
the stewardship of the body. And if I'm am I allowed to go super spiritual on this?
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I believe in my faith, God comes and meets us in a human body. Like
Mm,
we couldn't get to him, so he meets us in a human body, and that's how he bridges the gap. Well, in a sense, that's what I'm doing, right? I'm going to meet people where they are. I'm going to meet them in their struggle, their problem. They may not care about what's happening in my church, and it's not relevant to them, but they do care about being healthy. They do care about stewarding their body well. And so if I can meet them there in their body, meet them in this health journey, and then maybe in the process, what I've found out is like that's going to unlock a whole new level of your mental and your emotional and your spiritual self. Once you start working that out, you may
mm,
now then be
mm.
open to having those conversations about the spiritual component. But when I try to just go the spiritual route, it may not land. It may not be relevant to those people. So I've enjoyed, and I think again, this is all. I'm a holistic person, like all of this is a part of the plan and the journey of like, yeah, I had to
Yeah.
go on this health journey, this physical journey, because it's helping me spiritually, and in turn, it will help other people spiritually as well as when it comes to physically.
Yeah, man, I love that. Now, maybe you can help me put language to this as a pastor. You can kind of help me fill this in the way that you would frame it, maybe even from a theological perspective. But I think about like when you're helping someone kind of dial in nutrition and training, you're basically trying to say, I'm showing you a path of wisdom as it relates to feeding your body well and training. It's wise because it's in keeping with the way the world works. It's in keeping with reality. You could say it's in keeping with the laws of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you run life in counter to those laws, the more chaos it ensues or brings upon you. But the more you align with those laws, the more freedom that you actually have. Um,
Yes.
I am I'm a little bit of a philosophy nerd. I enjoy reading
I've
philosophy
seen
and
I've seen some
um,
of it.
the but even kind of like church history and how it kind of ties in. There's this early church father, Ignatius, and I love this
Hmm.
quote. He says, "The glory of God is man fully alive," and
Mm.
I love that quote because some people might kind of put in, you know, contradiction, like it's all about God's glory, not about you. But it's kind of like, oh, actually, a part of God's glory is, if you tie it into, I think it's in John's gospel where Jesus says, "I've come that you may have life and life
Hmm.
more abundantly." Now, obviously, Jesus is speaking more in a spiritual context there, but I think you could easily apply this to the whole of man, that holistic approach. And if I ask whether it's a theist or atheist or anybody in between, hey, do you want to be fully alive? Everyone's going to
Hmm.
say yes. And when you
Hmm.
begin to say, well, here's the path of wisdom as it relates to your nutrition, your training, if somebody begins to they start to step into that path, what happens is, and this is what I love about coaching so much, is they become so confident. They're like, oh, I could do way more than I thought I could.
Hmm.
My
Yes.
body composition is changing where I thought I was just kind of destined to be this type of person. A confidence comes about them that bleeds into the other areas of life. And the
Yes.
way, and maybe you see it this way as a pastor, I think you were kind of saying this more or less, but it's like almost like when people engage with a pursuing wisdom in these areas, it kind of bleeds into like, what does it look like to steward every area of my life,
Yes.
which I think could lead to spiritual conversations. But if
Yes.
you start there, a lot of like maybe Christian theology is seems to be all about like, I'm just preparing you for later. I'm preparing you for
Hmm.
like afterlife stuff. But that's really not the essence of like what the gospel would be either. There's a quality of life that is to
I
be
love
had
that.
now. And so
Yes.
I don't know. How would you flesh that out? And feel free to push back or even articulate it differently.
Sure. Here's what I would say. Somewhere along the line, we were taught to bifurcate, or we were taught to compartmentalize our spirituality. And I
Mm,
don't know why or how, or you'd have to get someone else to talk about that. But somehow, some way, me as a spiritual person, and I've been following Jesus a long time, thought it was okay to not steward this body well and still live in alignment to my creator. And then along this process, I realized this is all interconnected. It's all
mm,
interconnected, every
mm,
part of it. And so I could go into how you eat is connected to your finances, because most of us who are overeating are eating out, and we're probably overindulging, and we probably have large of we're eating all of our money, and that
mm,
probably leads to other things, stress. And sure, does stress have anything to do with your health at all? I mean, what do you
mm,
think about
mm.
that? And what about your relationship? Because if you're stressed and you're broke, how's that marriage going? How like are you guys fighting at all? And if you're fighting, how's the relationship with your kid? I mean, it's all interconnected, and we only can serve God with a body. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. And God is so interested in your body, I believe he will resurrect your body at the last day, right?
Mm, mm,
Like, so somewhere, and maybe it was because someone was it was like overemphasis. And we cannot base our life off of anybody's overemphasis, because somebody will always overemphasize something. Somebody will always be out of bounds. But maybe somebody overemphasized the body, and then from there somebody reacted to it, and I thought inadvertently thought like I could be overweight, obese, not eating well, not stewarding my body, and still be in alignment to how the Creator made me. And what I've learned now is I can't. I can't.
Mm, mm,
And those things are interconnected. I can only serve God in a body. That's
mm.
it. And so
Yeah.
if I'm not alive, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not moving, if I'm not whatever it may be, that impacts how I serve and how I interrelate to our creator. So to me,
Yeah.
that's why I use the word holistic. It's all interconnected.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So one thing I'm studying right now is through I'm interested in the whole like mind body connection. Obviously, my company's mind and body, but I'm really interested in the relationship between our psychology and physiology. But one thing that you were noting on, and just kind of tracing the thought of like throughout history, how has people related between like their inner man and their outer man, or however it would
Mm-hmm.
be expressed, and I do think that some of the ways people in Christianity think about the body today actually falls more under kind of a Gnostic
Mm-hmm.
view, where they
Mm-hmm.
would say the material world is bad and should not be prioritized, only focus on ascending in the spiritual realm
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. And
Interesting.
Christianity actually was saying, no, the created world, the material is good.
Yes.
God created the material world. Now there are, fallen aspects that we need to note, but it's still good. And God's big project is actually to redeem not just
Yes.
the body, but the entire cosmic order in
Yes.
a new earth. So it's like, God's not disregarding it. And currently, we still have the mandate of um, to our body, to creation, go subdue the earth. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a stewardship that's still in play until then. So it's like, to actually talk down being a steward of the body, thinking about the body, is more Gnostic than it is actually truly Christian in its origin. I thought that was really interesting. And I think it's important to kind of trace the history of thought and how we got where we are today and how we articulate things. But that
I
kind of
would
ties
agree.
in. I'm sure you heard people talk about like, well, they bring in that passage from Timothy, bodily exercise profiteth little,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you have your little. What's your little firebacks with that, real quick, on something like that? If somebody fires that to you,
Paul, the writer who wrote that, also said that our bodies are the temple of the Spirit of God.
yeah, yeah,
So I think you're going to live in a sacred harmony and balance. Again, you could take the overemphasis of anything and be up in dangerous territory. And so I will. This post is coming one day. I'm not there yet. Why are you stewarding your body? Why are you stewarding your body? See,
mm,
that body cannot be the end. It cannot be the end goal, the chief aim. It is the vehicle. But vehicles are important, right? The chief aim for me is to glorify God. Therefore, I glorify God in my body. But my body is not my chief ends, right?
yeah,
Because when this body no longer is, I shall still be, right? And
yeah,
so for me, it can't become the ultimate goal. So that's, to me, that's what bodily exercise profiteth little means to me, is that it is not the chief goal and means, but knowing it is the temple of the Holy Spirit means it is a vehicle towards that chief end. Therefore, it is very important. Just because it doesn't profit a lot, meaning like the end goal, meaning like, man, if you're healthy and you're fit and your life is a mess, what's happening here? All right, let's get some things in order. Let's bring, again,
mm,
holistic harmony and alignment to everything in your life. But the chief goal for me is not the body; it's what I can do with the body.
yes, yeah. That's so good. It's so interesting that in the pursuit of truth, we just talked about somebody who kind of disregards the body, but now you kind of swung the other direction about somebody that might be completely obsessed, like they make that the chief
Mm-hmm.
end. Um, and so anytime you're pursuing truth, it feels like I'm going to be attacked from both sides, but I got to
Yes.
speak to both of these directions here because you're right. Somebody could be actually covering up a tremendous amount of undealt with insecurities and
100.
issues, and they're just like, well, I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to train really hard and I'm just going to get ripped or whatever. And it's like, hey, it's great that you're training, great that you may even have physique goals. That's fine. But there's something out of balance here. For sure. No, that's a really good thought. So you train, this kind of ties in everything that we're saying. You train in I think you're wearing it, a Jesus One shirt. There it
Yes.
is. There's
Yes.
a so I'm curious. You've already kind of detailed this a little bit about like how faith plays a role, but has it been? Would you say that like your faith kind of like, okay, because of my faith, I need to really work this way, or was it like you started to work your body and it actually kind of flamed the faith, or maybe it's both? I don't know. How has that encouraged you in how's your faith interplayed with
Hmm. Yes,
your passion?
it's got to be both because it depends on the day of the week. It just depends on the day
I
of the
hear
week.
that. I hear that.
I do have this overarching. This came from working with athletes. I don't know if you know that about my story. So I'm a chaplain for athletes, and so I became aware of this brand by watching them kind of
Oh,
display
I
their
didn't
faith.
realize it was a
Yeah.
brand. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So Jesus won apparels and apparel, and so athletes wear this. It's just their way, and it's such a great. They all. It's always in team colors, and the statement just stands by itself so well. And I feel like it's incarnate into the environment in which it's put, and it's bold, but yet it is 100%. Everybody can touch that. There's handles on it. So
Mm,
I just really liked it, and the thought is this: to me, it's an identity and reality piece, and that is that it is finished. That's what Jesus said. It is finished, and he said, "In this world, you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world." Meaning, like you're going to have struggles, and you're going to on the field of play, of course, right? This is where the athletes would connect this. You're going to have struggles. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to swing and miss. You're going to fumble, but that's not the ultimate reality. That's not the when it all is said and done. Like your identity isn't in whether I swung or I miss or I fumble. It's in something deeper, a reality that it is finished, and Jesus says I've overcome. So, which is
mm.
the Greek word overcome is a Greek word for victory. Uh, uh, you would pronounce it Nike. We call it Nike. So
Yes.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's where that came from, and it's just an identity piece for athletes and people who train and kind of they're into this world, and I really identify with that because for me, it is identity. So
Mm,
my identity informs my behavior, not the other way around. Because if it's the other way around, I end up chasing identity,
mm,
and that's a never-ending chase. But if your identity informs your behavior, I know who I am, I know whose I am, therefore, this is how I steward, this is how I operate, this is how I behave. And then I'm resting in identity, and I know who I am. And then I can actually go out and achieve great things, you know.
yeah. Yeah, that's
But it's
so
not a
good.
it's not a chase of trying to become somebody or figure out who I am. I know who I am
Mm,
because of this. I know who I am, and therefore I can do things that seem impossible. And some people will say I couldn't do. I didn't do it because I was chasing their approval. I was doing it because I know who I already was and who I belonged to and who he is.
right, right. Man, that's good. It's kind of like from like really understanding being my doings is kind of informed by that. It's being
Yes.
first then doing. When doing is first, we can kind of hit the existential crisis. Why am I even doing this? you
Yes.
know?
Right.
And but if you have a rich, deep sense of this is who I am or who I seek to become, and probably in a large way, from a Christian perspective, there's resources for grounding being beyond, just kind of like, I want to be this person. There's a little bit more like, this is who God's created me to be. So there's a
Hmm.
sense of powerful agency that can come from who you are and understanding who you are. Um,
And it
I
allows for
think,
imperfection. That imperfection we talked about, that
yeah,
progress, because
Mm.
if doing is first and doing is I have to hit this weight, this mark, this mile, and I don't hit it, well, then what am I? I
Oh
am
yeah.
less than. But if it's being first, if I ate the bowl of ice cream, I'm still in this reality because this is my identity. Now I may do something different the next day, or I may maybe adjust and I'll bring myself into balance. But that comes from my identity, not from my behavior.
Yes. Have you read James Clear's book on Atomic Habits?
Yes,
Okay. So he
yes,
actually talks about identity based habit formation,
that's it.
and he might, and I actually think he might actually have a somewhat of a Christian background, or connected to that to some level too. And you don't find that in his book as much, but he does kind of talk about this identity based, and kind of even framing, like learning to frame things even in the midst of failure, learning how to frame getting back in line with who you are, or who you're seeking to be. But if you start down the road of like, man, I'm a loser, I can't win, um, there's this little piece of wisdom in James 3. This is for those listening in who maybe not as familiar with like biblical scriptures. This is a letter in the New Testament. But James said in James 3, our tongue is a like a rudder of a ship.
Mm,
And it's this idea that the tongue has the power to actually direct my life. And so if I start talking in a certain way, it's like me turning the rudder, and I can become the very thing that I'm saying. And I'm such a loser, I'm never going to win. Well, you just turn the
hmm
rudder. But if you're like, and you don't have to, now there are people that go the other way with affirmations, I think, that are
hmm
not helpful. They're like, they're actually having a bad day. Like, I am a winner, I never lose. It's
hmm
like, well, that's
hmm
probably not totally truthful. You can kind of, lying to yourself maybe is not the best thing either, but saying, hey,
hmm
I'm in process, I'm learning, I'm becoming this
hmm
person. That's a different type of frame.
Those are
And that's,
identity statements.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then if you layer that, if you're, a believer, to kind of put it in your context too, is like, um, you have even more resources to really fortify that change. So I think that's
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm sure that's encouraging. Have you had anybody like respond to the shirt? Has it produce good conversations for you?
every day,
That's
every
awesome.
single day. Yeah, and for people who would agree, of course, it's a hey, I like your shirt, and but for others, what does that mean, and why are you wearing that? Because obviously you've noticed I wear it, primarily to train in. But it's rooting me back to my identity. What is this? Who am I? Therefore, I do this, not the other way around.
Yeah, that's good. So let's jump into your some particulars of your routine. And actually, maybe in this routine, I'd love to hear like what has been the hardest sticking point for you. Like, is there any been thing like, man,
hmm
this has been the hardest thing for me in this
hmm
journey? Really struggle with. Maybe you
hmm
could detail that. But like, what is your what does your day look like? What are like, I don't know, whatever you would like to share with that, like your
Sure,
training, your here's some nutrition type things that you've done that's helped you. But like, what does a day look like for you?
sure. And hopefully, this is where I get free coaching. Is that right? Where you're going to help me?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, let me give you the genesis of that. So that again, healthy eating for us look like um, eliminating processed foods from our diet, just kind of plain and simple. That's not to say that over the course of the past 6 months we haven't had something we have had something, but by and large we are trying to eat clean and avoid over processed food. That's where it started when it came to intake. And then when it came to exercise, Apple has an Apple Fitness thing. I was already paying for it. And I feel like any soccer mom could do it. I could do it. That's kind of where it started. And I do that in the mornings. I do that early in the mornings. I put it out there. And then I had a neighbor who said, can we do this together? And so we started doing it together. The hardest part right off the rip is, I am not a morning person. I don't like to wake up early in the morning. I like the benefits of what I do. I don't like waking up early, and so when life and vacations and travel, all that comes up, that took me off of my rhythm, and so for a span there, we were really locked in on 5:30, and we get an hour in, so forth and so on. But that kind of went out the window, and then so it became, when am I going to train? How am I going to make that work? And that daily commitment. The best thing that happened me for that was I said out loud, I'm going to run a marathon. And there's no way around running a marathon. I think when I said it, I was 280 some pounds without training. So it became the forced rhythm of I have there's a plan. I bought a book. A guy said, "This is how you can how you can run a marathon as a novice," and so I've just followed that plan. Mondays do this, Wednesdays do this, Fridays do this, Saturday long run, and then just the knowledge of how that strength training was going to aid in that plan. And then also, I had somewhere I've read a lot of or listened to a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos that I wasn't just trying to lose weight, but I was trying to see body recomposition. So I wanted to maintain my muscle while losing fat. That's a huge paradigm shift that changed. And so knowing how strength training was going to help me accomplish that overall goal, I actually had to learn how to eat more protein in that process. So now it looks like 3 days a week running, 3 days a week strength training, and a day off.
Yeah.
When I can fit it in. Last night or yesterday, it was in the middle of the day. I had a day off yesterday, so I went for. I did a morning strength training session. I try to do strength training before running, so morning strength training session, and a lunch run. Today it'll be opposite. I'll do an evening strength training, full body, and then I'll do a Saturday morning run. And for me, just my lifestyle, that I have to be flexible until there's a sense of normalcy. So July will be a little more normal. And so, yeah, if I can wake up, do it first thing. But first thing for me is not 5:30 in the morning. I don't know who I am, and I don't want to know who I am at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
6:30 sounds way better. 7:30 seems to be my sweet spot. So,
Yeah.
And that's as simple it is. I transitioned from Apple Fitness. I don't want to say that I think I could still do those same things and still accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. But I have new goals now, and so I've transitioned to something called FitBod. It could be good, it could be bad. I don't know but it takes what I have. I punched in all of my gym equipment that I have in my gym in my garage, and I said, here are my goals. Here's what I want to do, and it helps build a workout. And I love the video. It shows me a video how to do it. And then so I'm using that as my structured strength training, and then I have a new running plan that I got through Runa that's leading me towards my next running goal. And I don't even like to run. I love how it feels the moment I'm done. That's how
yes,
that's how I feel about running. I love that feeling, that endorphin of I ran 6 miles and now I'm finished. But the everything from the first step till then is not enjoyable for me, but it has been fun watching. I just get to watch myself do things I never thought I could do.
Yeah. Yeah. Between training, like strength training and running, which do you prefer?
Strength training 100%. Though I don't like lower body strength training. So I don't, what is the difference? Could you tell me why is it so? I don't know. Maybe it's more, I don't know. I can't even tell you, but for some reason, I dread lower body strength training.
Yeah.
I love upper body, and I can tolerate full body, but the lower body just seems to be a labor of love.
Yeah. So like you walk on your legs all day. You don't walk on your hands all day. Your body is conditioned in such a way with lower body, more muscle mass in targeted areas like quads are huge. The glutes are huge. Hamstrings can be pretty huge as well. But it's just like there's so much musculature and there's so high level of endurance just because you use them all the time already that to train them to failure will demand a lot of blood, lactic acid.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my goodness, I have so much power down here. I can keep pushing. And it's like, I feel like I might throw up, but I'm
That's
not
it.
quite, I'm not
That's the
quite there.
feeling.
Yeah.
That's
And
the feeling.
some of that will improve. Just the more conditioned you become, the more you'll be able to push yourself without feeling like, "Bleh." But
Hmm.
the sad story, I hate to say this to you, but
Go ahead. Tell me.
the more conditioned you are, the harder you can push, you know? So you
Right.
still are, you get to leg day and you're just like wiped out and you're walking out of your garage or out of the gym or whatever. And it's just, um, it's hard, but I don't know. It's one of those weird things where for me, I've always enjoyed upper body more than lower body, but when I walk out of the gym and I've trained legs hard and I know I push myself, there's nothing like yeah, like I just crush these wheels.
Is
And
that
it
that's
feels
probably how I feel after I run. Is like
yeah,
I
yeah.
hated that. That hurt. That I hated it, and I feel so good that I did it.
Now
Yeah.
I will say some people will do like they do too many exercises.
Hmm.
Um and they might be better off doing fewer, harder sets
Mm.
than like there's something that's called junk volume, and it's where so I'll just describe it real quick. So when you let's say you do a set of squats and you've done your warm-up set, you did your first working set. The first working set, if you pushed hard, had a high level of effort, that's going to produce the most stimulus out of all
Hmm.
of the sets. The science shows when you hit your second set. Now this is not a perfect science, but I'm just giving generalities here. When you hit your second set, the second set probably will produce about half the amount of stimulus as your first set did.
Mm.
And then your third set will probably produce about half the amount of stimulus as your second. Do you see how it kind of
Interesting.
diminishes?
Interesting. Yeah.
Dim- so if somebody says, dude, bro, I'm going to do 10 sets of 10, I'm going to crush it on squats, just 10 hard, crazy sets. Well, they're going to definitely get a lot of stimulus from 10 sets of 10, but the stimulus to fatigue ratio is horrible because they're
Mm.
going to end up having so much fatigue, not only so axial fatigue, systemic fatigue, localized fatigue, and it's going to take them a long time to recover from. But if they were able to actually say, you know what, 3 to 4 sets of squats is sufficient for me, hard sets of squats is good, I can come back in a couple more days and train again. As opposed to
Hmm.
if I did the 10 sets, I may
Hmm.
have to wait a week because I can't hardly move. Um, so if you leverage programming right, you minimize fatigue, you maximize stimulus, um, and you can see better results from that. And I think with leg training, particularly, just because man, legs just can take so much more abuse, so much more harder training, so much more. It takes a longer time for there to be a disruption. You know, like when you're training
Hmm.
biceps, like
Hmm.
biceps are pretty small muscles,
Yeah.
and you can fatigue them, and you're done. But they'll heal up pretty fast. Like
Hmm.
legs are just a different game, you know. So
Well, I'm
you have
glad
to.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, you are definitely not the only one.
Yeah.
And sorry, I kind of elaborated long on that point. But yeah, I'm with you. So with this journey of like weight loss, did you hit any crazy plateaus? You felt like I'm done. I don't feel like I can get any further. You're
Yes.
trying to go 25 more pounds at least in this particular goal. So
Yes.
did you see it 67 days until 66 days now, I guess? That was yesterday.
Hmm. Hmm.
66 days. Um, how
And
do you feel about
that's
this
a
goal?
yeah, that's a I mean, I don't want to say it's artificial. My birthday is August 24th.
Yeah, yeah,
So when I started this process, I really felt like, okay, I can do this. I thought I'd be to 100 pounds long before my birthday. But as you just said, plateaus happened, adjustments. One thing I realized is training for a marathon, you have to fuel properly to run long runs. Um,
yes,
you
yeah,
know, you have to eat a certain amount of calories just to have. I bonked out a couple of times in my training where, like, I'm supposed to go 18 miles and I went 14 miles because I was under fueled or under this or that.
yes,
So, eating enough calories in marathon training, um, trying to get enough sleep, all the different things. So I hit plateaus leading up to the marathon, and then after the marathon, you recover, right? So like you don't run as much. I pulled a hamstring of all the things 2 weeks after the marathon, playing softball, tagging from third to home. I pulled a
Mhm.
hamstring. And then I had another race at the end of the month. So yeah, I kind of floundered in the 260s and 250s for about 2 months. And some of it was a lot of it was the marathon training and eating to be able to do these long runs. Some of it was a hamstring injury, and some of it, if I'm being honest, is you accomplish something and then you need that. Okay, what's next, and how do I get to that? So I came out of that. That's been a month and a half since I run the marathon, and I ran a 10K after that, and I'm able to get back into my rhythm. And now I'm like, okay, I got past the 250 plateau. I'm in the 240s, and I say, okay, I got 25 pounds to go. My birthday's on August 24th. That's 67 days away. It's going to be hard. Here's the caloric deficit I have to live with. Here's what that looks like. Here's obviously a recommitment to training. 3 times a day strength, 3 times a week strength, 3 times a week for running, and I think I can do it. So it's just kind of artificial. Like, hey, I'd like to enter into my birthday at this goal of losing 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, so that's
Well,
how I got there.
I like how you're thinking about it too, because it's like, hey, this is a milestone I'm shooting for. I'm like, if you got to 90 pounds, you'd be like, I failed. I'm a failure as a human being. You'd be like, I can't believe I've lost 90 pounds
Mm-hmm.
on this journey. That would be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think having a goal, pushing towards it, it could be a really good thing in the process. I like milestone goals too. I just like, here's something I'm shooting for. Here's a countdown and pressing forward. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's really good. It sounds like from a just a coaching perspective, you're doing a lot of things right, like good balance between strength training and cardiovascular endurance training. Um, there's this thing called sarcopenic obesity. Have you heard of that term? Yeah, I know it's one of those terms.
Explain that. I've heard of
Sorry.
obesity, but what
So
is that?
so sarcopenia, and you're dealing with it even with you'll know what I'm talking about when I say it. So sarcopenia is the tendency that after your 30s, basically, you lose between 3 and 8% of your muscle mass every decade,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
unless you mitigate it with healthy, what I call like an ecology of practices like training, nutrition, sleep, managing stress. But I guess some of the bigger movers is like the nutrition and the training, having that on point. But you lose a significant amount of muscle mass. And a lot of people will say, like they'll get into their 40s and 50s and they'll start to feel a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Some of which, though, was unnecessary. It wasn't because it was the 40s, it's because in their 20s, 30s, they just didn't get into the rhythms of practice of training or eating right. So now they're starting to feel like, oh, I've lost a significant amount of type 2 muscle fibers. That's the
Mm.
fast twitch. So when you start to feel like, oh, I can't get up and go like I used to, I'm not as fast as I used to be, or um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're losing that explosive power. And again, you were an athlete, you
Yeah,
said, so
that's a loosely speaking.
you said, okay. Well, when you're playing sports, man, you're engaging through like kind of
Mm-hmm.
plyometric type style exercises or just training. You're just engaging that a lot. And then when you transition into like just, I guess, adulthood or a desk job or whatever, you're just not using
Mm-hmm.
that. So you can tend
Correct.
to lose it. But sarcopenia sets in. Sarcopenic obesity, though, is combined with weight loss strategies and this phenomenon of sarcopenia. So somebody says, dude, I got to lose weight. And they don't think at all about muscle. So they try to diet fast. They may even do like some pretty extreme diets, like 1,000 calories a day. I'm going to really
Mm-hmm.
lose it fast. But they don't really track their macronutrients. They're not getting enough
Mm-hmm.
protein. They may not be actually doing any type of like weight training. So they
Mm-hmm.
lose a lot of muscle, but it's not sustainable. So like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. I never want to do this again. So they go get the cake and they go get eat at their favorite burger place, and this happens for weeks or whatever, and they gain the weight back, over time.
Hmm.
What
With
they
less muscle.
assume is that they gain the same kind of weight back.
No.
But it's like you lost the muscle, but you didn't gain the muscle back. You gained fat mass. So now you're actually metabolically worse off.
Hmm.
But people will do this cycle on and off for decades.
Hmm.
So lose muscle, fat, gain fat back, lose muscle and fat, gain fat back. So they're accelerating sarcopenia, and they're putting themselves in a position where it's going to, as they continue to do this, it makes it really hard for them to lose weight, because metabolically their body is so suboptimal because muscle
Hmm.
mass is really gone at this point.
Hmm.
Now, it's not impossible to reverse. It's just a really hard uphill battle. And it
Yeah.
sounds like to me, though, that you did a really good job, whether it was by mistake or, learning along the way or whatever, of saying, I need to focus on building muscle, because
Hmm.
muscle is the organ of longevity. It's
Hmm.
really going to help with everything in your body, but also this is pretty common knowledge that the more muscle you have, the more your metabolic rate is going to be higher
Yes.
naturally. But there's other things that the muscles do just to help with your overall metabolic health. Where it could be glucose depositing and all this kind
Hmm.
of stuff. They could just help with your overall health. And so I think you're doing that well. So does that make sense what
Thank
that
you.
is?
It makes complete sense. And we always just use the phrase skinny fat is what we called that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you lose weight, but you've lost muscle in the process.
Yeah.
And
And
so you still
sometimes,
feel fat, but
sadly,
you're thinner.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but I think a lot of people there, and it's becoming more popular in culture. A lot more people have gym memberships today. A lot more people
Hmm.
are gymming, using it as a verb,
Hmm.
which I think it's awesome. And now, kind of keeping a good balance of good endurance, cardiovascular health, as well as building muscle, which is going to help promote the best outcomes for longevity, not just lifespan, but actually having a better quality of life as
Yeah.
well later in those years. Just real quick, and we just got a few more minutes here. Man, time flies.
Yes.
What
When you,
was there any book, voice, program, or even just a person you follow that helped shift things for you?
uh, not anything that just jumps off the page. I did get a book, Marathon, the Ultimate Training Guide, Hal Higdon.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so that was the book that helped me. I don't think I could have run a marathon had I not had a guide or a process to kind of help me with that training. I just listened to lots and lots and lots of podcasts and YouTube
Who,
videos.
do you mind sharing
Uh,
any podcasts that's
yeah,
helped you?
when it just the idea of strength training, the Diary of a CEO. I don't even know the guy's name.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my
He's
goodness,
got tons. He's interviewed so many people about how strength training
Steven.
affects. That's it.
Steven's his name. Yeah, I just
Yeah,
couldn't.
how
I
it
don't know.
affects your overall health and improvement and so forth and so on. I can't tell you how many of those that I watch and listen to. Um, I did. I can't remember when it was, but somehow I got turned on to this David Goggins,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
I read his or listened to his book, big a couple years ago, and then so when I
yeah.
came back to this world, I was like, let me revisit that, and which is amazing because a lot of his stuff was fuel from trauma and
Mm,
pain, and it motivated me to say, wow, if he could accomplish all of that out of trauma and pain and suffering, what could I accomplish from my standpoint of the glory of God and light and abundance,
yeah.
so it was a man, look what it's amazing what the human body and what the human mind can do.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
And then what if I embrace that and also embrace my spirit in the process of it? So it's very motivating. Obviously, the language is adult, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I sometimes I think people misunderstand him in that relationship. Like he's been through just so much, and he's like, I'm not going to let these circumstances dictate. It's kind of like the whole Marcus Aurelius statement. He says the obstacle is the way, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, this hurts, but I'm going to run, with other
Mm-hmm.
choice words mixed in
Yes.
there. But
Yes.
he makes me smile. I do
It's
appreciate
fascinating.
you.
I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of it's interesting, and I feel for me it's like it you are he taught I forget what it is percentage wise, but it's like you have a percentage that you have never tapped into that
Yeah.
is it is mental, and that was been extremely helpful to know that. And then the last thing I actually listened to, and I think it's designed for women, but it's just as good for men. Made to Crave by Lisa Turkhurst, and she just
Mm.
talks about the connection of Scripture and when it talks about how we eat, and it's been there in the Bible the whole time. And most of us who grew up in environments of potlucks, they just never talked about it in church. So
Interesting. I haven't seen this book, so
yeah,
I have to pick that up. Last question, and you can answer it in however much time you think you can have here. But like for a person listening in who maybe is struggling with feeling ready, feeling apprehension, feeling a little skeptical, what's one thing that you would tell them?
I tell them to soar, SOAR, soar. So this is what I discovered for me in my process, and that's systems, organizations, accountability, and results. You
Mm,
have to have some type of system, and it doesn't have it could be simple. So that S could be a double S, it could be a simple system.
yeah.
But what is it? Is it a free weight, a dumbbell? You can find a set on Facebook Marketplace. We got ours for $25 from Facebook Marketplace of like from 5 pounds to 25 pounds
Mm, mm,
of dumbbells. That's a system, right? Now you could get I don't even want to know what some of these machine pulley systems cost. Those are very expensive and elaborate systems, but it's a system. Well, you have to have some type of system. Running is a system. Walking, hey, walking is a system. It works, you know.
yeah.
System. Then organization. How are you going to organize? How is it organized? So one big thing was, where am I going to put this? Am I going to put it in my basement or are you going to put it in my garage? My basement is cooled in the summer and heated in the winter, but I never go to my basement ever. Only time I go to my basement is when I have to. My garage, I walk through every single day. It's not heated, it's not cooled, but I walk through my garage every day. So I put it in my garage. So you have to organize your system so that it works and it works for you. And then, and this could be I'm not so good with self accountability, but some form of accountability. So what I did was I put it online. Hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm holding myself accountable. This, hold me accountable. Obviously, I was accountable to my wife. Um, and then it became my neighbor. Once I put it outline, my neighbor getting involved, I was accountable to my neighbor. And now I'm accountable to you and everybody you're connected to. You see, so there's some form of accountability. I don't want to be able to fail quietly. If I fail, I fail, but I don't want to do it quietly. I don't want to do it secretly. You know what I mean?
Mm, mm,
And I'm competitive. Maybe that's competitive. Maybe that's just how I'm wired. Somebody can be different. I'm wired enough to be competitive and say, if I said I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I've had moments of failure in my process, but I'm accountable enough that I get back up on it. I get back on.
mm.
And then the last thing is results. And again, the hardest thing with people is when you quit between the S and the R. It may take weeks to get from the S to the R, but once you see the results, once you feel the results, you are creating like your brain is literally creating grooves to say, do that. There's a reward associated to it.
Yes. Yes.
And then you repeat. You're the little rat as you talked about. You're your own science experiment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then you may have to tweak some things along the way, but that would be what I say. System, some type of system, make it simple in the beginning, organize it so it works, make yourself accountable to something, someone, somehow, and then don't quit before you see the results. Because once you see the results, it'll reinforce what you're doing. And
Mm.
again, you may end up on somebody's podcast.
Well, Kirk Kirkland, thank you so much for coming on the channel. This was a great conversation. I was actually so many times thinking, man, I want to hear more of his story. I'd love to have him on.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to ask to see if he wants to come on. So
Thank
much
you.
appreciation, man.
It's my
Thanks for
honor.
jumping on.
My honor. Can't wait to get my final goal. Hopefully we can talk about that one day.
Hey, you know what? Maybe we could plan a
Okay.
podcast episode. Is like, hey, we reached it. Like, give us more. Maybe
Okay.
it could be a short one or whatever. That'd be fun. We'll have to have you
I'm
back
in.
on.
I'm in. Thank you, man.